Once upon a time, the American dream was a simple promise, one that echoed through every small town and city street. If you worked hard, played by the rules, and kept your nose clean, you could secure a comfortable life for yourself and your family. The dream wasn't about becoming a billionaire or living in a mansion. It was about owning a modest home, having a stable job, and maybe taking the family on a summer road trip. After World War II, this dream was more than just a fantasy. It was reality for millions. A single income could support a family, buy a house, and even put a little away for the future. Fast forward to today, and for millennials, that dream feels like a ghost story, a tale from another era, full of promises that now seem out of reach. The path to the American dream has vanished, replaced by locked gates and soaring prices. For many millennials, the destination is a gated community they can't even afford to visit, let alone call home. What happened to the sturdy middle class? Once, it was the backbone of American life. Families could afford a home, a car, and even a vacation on a single income. But that dream has faded for millions. The unraveling began in the 1970s with deindustrialization and stagnant wages. Factories shuttered across the Rust Belt, and millions lost stable union jobs. In 1979, manufacturing made up 22% of U.S. employment. Today, it's less than 9%. Manufacturing jobs moved overseas, and wages stopped growing despite soaring corporate profits. From 1979 to 2020, worker productivity rose by 61%, but hourly pay grew by just 17%. The gap between the rich and everyone else widened. Meanwhile, the cost of housing, healthcare, and education skyrocketed, creating a cost of living crisis. In 1980, the median home price was about 3 times the average annual income. Now, it's nearly 6 times. Medical bills and student loans have become crushing burdens. This wasn't an accident, it was the result of deliberate policy choices favoring the wealthy. Tax cuts in the 1980s and 2000s slashed rates for the richest Americans. Trade deals like NAFTA sent jobs overseas. Deregulation let Wall Street boom while Main Street struggled. The social contract supporting the middle class was dismantled, leaving a generation to navigate a treacherous economic landscape. Millennials in particular are earning 20% less than their parents did at the same age, despite being the most educated generation in history. The American dream, once within reach, now feels like a moving target. Enter the millennials, raised to believe education was the key to success. For years they were told that a college degree would open doors to opportunity and financial security. But as they pursued higher education, tuition costs soared, rising over 200% since the 1980s. The average millennial now graduates with nearly $30,000 in student loan debt. Graduating into the aftermath of the 2008 recession, they faced a brutal job market filled with unpaid internships and low-wage, unstable work. Nearly 40% of recent college grads are underemployed, working jobs that don't require a degree. The promise of a high-paying career and stable life turned out to be a bait-and-switch. Many millennials, like Sarah, a 29-year-old with a master's degree, juggle multiple part-time jobs just to make loan payments, delaying milestones like buying a home or starting a family. The cycle of debt and underemployment has left an entire generation feeling trapped, anxious, and uncertain about their future. Let's dive into the numbers. Tuition costs have exploded, with student loan debt now at $1.7 trillion. The average student graduates with over $30,000 in debt, a burden that takes decades to repay. Housing prices have soared, making homeownership a distant dream for many. In some cities, prices have doubled in just a decade, pushing the dream of owning a home further out of reach. Healthcare costs have outpaced inflation, becoming a leading cause of bankruptcy. A single medical emergency can wipe out years of savings, leaving families in financial ruin. Wages have stagnated, while the costs of education, housing, and healthcare have gone supernova. Despite working longer hours, many millennials find themselves living paycheck to paycheck. This isn't about spending too much on lattes, it's a systemic failure, a mathematical crisis. The financial deck is stacked against an entire generation, making it nearly impossible to get ahead. If the middle class is shrinking, where did the money go? The answer is clear. It flowed upward, away from everyday families, and into the hands of the wealthiest individuals and the largest corporations. Over the past few decades, the rich have gotten richer. The top 1% have seen their income share double, while the middle and working classes have struggled to keep up. The wealthiest Americans now control more wealth than at any time in modern history. Wall Street traders celebrate record profits, and CEOs take home paychecks hundreds of times larger than their average employees. Meanwhile, the bottom 50% have seen their share of the pie shrink. For many, paychecks have barely budged, and the dream of financial security feels further away than ever. Policy decisions have consistently favored the wealthy, tax cuts for corporations and the rich, loopholes for big business, and weakened protections for workers. As a result, corporate profits have soared to all-time highs. But instead of sharing these gains with employees, companies have focused on practices that benefit only a select few. Wages for most workers have stagnated. Many people are working longer hours, juggling multiple jobs, or turning to gig work just to make ends meet. Instead of investing in their employees, companies have poured billions into stock buybacks, artificially boosting share prices and rewarding executives and shareholders, while leaving everyday workers behind. For many millennials, economic struggles aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet, they're a daily psychological weight. The constant anxiety of making ends meet seeps into every corner of life, from relationships to sleep. Take Sarah, a 29-year-old graphic designer. She describes waking up at 3 a.m., heart pounding, replaying her student loan balance in her mind. It's not just about saving for a down payment, she says. It's the chronic stress that never lets up, affecting my health, my friendships, even my sense of self-worth. Experts like Dr. Lisa Chen, a clinical psychologist, warn that this financial precarity leads to a scarcity mindset. When you're always worried about money, your brain is in survival mode. It's exhausting, and it makes planning for the future feel impossible, she explains. The pressure to maintain a facade of success in the age of social media only deepens the sense of isolation. Behind every curated post, there's often a story of anxiety and self-doubt, fueling a cycle where millennials feel alone in their struggles, even as millions face the same invisible battles. Economic pressures have massive ripple effects, touching every aspect of life for millennials and younger generations. Traditional milestones like marriage, starting a family, and home ownership are being pushed further and further into the future. Millennials can't afford these steps due to crushing student debt, stagnant wages, and the rising cost of living. The dream of owning a home is slipping out of reach for many, turning what was once a rite of passage into a distant hope. As a result, more people are becoming long-term renters, which is reshaping communities and changing the fabric of neighborhoods. The U.S. birth rate has fallen sharply, driven by economic anxiety and uncertainty about the future, leading to fewer families and smaller households. These delays have long-term social and demographic impacts, reshaping adulthood, altering family structures, and even threatening the sustainability of social safety nets as the population ages and fewer children are born. The consequences of delayed dreams ripple outward, affecting not just individuals, but the entire society for generations to come. None of this is irreversible. The challenges facing millennials and the middle class are the result of policy decisions, and that means we can change course. We can fix it with bold, evidence-based policy choices. Countries like Australia and Canada have shown that strong social safety nets and targeted reforms can make a real difference. Start with wages. Raise the minimum wage to a living wage, as cities like Seattle and states like California have done, leading to higher earnings without major job losses. Strengthen unions to give workers a real voice at the bargaining table, just as Germany's co-determination model has empowered employees for decades. Address the student debt crisis with broad-based cancellation, as seen in recent U.S. relief programs, and make college affordable through tuition-free community college, like in Tennessee. Build more affordable housing and reform zoning laws, following the example of cities like Vienna, which has kept rents low for generations. Make healthcare a right, not a privilege, by expanding public options and capping out-of-pocket costs, as many European countries have done. These changes can remove financial anxiety, restore hope, and help millennials and all Americans build secure, fulfilling lives. The solutions are out there, we just have to choose them. Feeling overwhelmed is natural, But despair isn't an option. Every bill, every anxious night, is a reminder that you're not alone in this struggle. Understand your financial struggles are part of a larger systemic issue, one that affects millions of millennials across the country. This isn't just your burden, it's a generational challenge. Get loud, talk about it, and change the conversation from individual blame to systemic reform. Share your story online, join local advocacy groups, and support campaigns that demand fair wages and affordable housing. Get organized, form tenant unions, attend city council meetings, and vote for candidates with concrete plans to address inequality. Support labor movements fighting for better working conditions and benefits. Across the country, millennials are already making a difference, winning union drives, passing local rent control, and building mutual aid networks. The American dream can be revived with collective action and systemic change. Your voice, your vote, and your solidarity matter, now more than ever.